Welcome to the Cardboard Crash Course. My name's Ethan, and this is the Twilight Imperium channel. Today, we're going to be doing a Twilight Imperium Fourth Edition Beginner's Guide. This is the entirety of the TI4 game in a bite-sized package for new players, returning players, and hosts that want to send it to the rest of their group before their first game. I'm going to be talking about a little bit of lore, a little bit of strategy, but mostly the mechanics of TI4. And we're going to be touching on each individual thing briefly so that you understand what TI4 is and how Twilight Imperium is going to play throughout your day. This coincides with the Part 2, which is a faction beginner's guide that touches on all 30 of the Twilight Imperium factions after you finish this video. If you're only going to watch one, I suggest this, but if you have time for both, it's very helpful to help you pick your faction. If you're someone who's hosting the game and would rather watch a full how to play guide that's almost an hour long touching on everything in detail on the How to Play Cardboard Crash Course YouTube channel, I also have that ready to go. We'll first be going over the base game and then layering the Prophecy of Kings and Thunder's Edge expansions on top of it. So please make sure with your host whether you're playing with the expansions or not, or one or both of them. Either way, let's stop wasting time and jump right into the beginner's guide of Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. Of course, I want to teach you how to play the game, but first I need to tell you how to win, because nothing is important if it's not pointed towards this victory point track and these objectives. Each player is going to place a control marker at the beginning of the game on the 0 space of the victory point track. If it ever reaches the last space on the track, then you immediately win the game. Normally games are played with this 10 victory point track, which enables a shorter, more concise game. However, on the other side, there is a 14-point victory point track, which enables a longer game and more investment throughout the day. I heavily suggest you start with the 10-point track, even if you feel like it's enticing to start with 14, because those extra 4 points can add up to another hour or two to the play experience. How you get victory points on the victory point track is going to be enabled by the objectives on the top and bottoms of the track. 2 objectives start the game face up, and another objective gets revealed at the end of every round. Additionally, at the end of every round, you can score up to one of these objectives. Only one. And you get the amount of victory points shown here on the bottom. Eventually, after all Stage 1 public objectives are revealed, the Stage 2 public objectives begin to be revealed as well, and they're worth 2 victory points each instead, which speeds up the end of the game. Multiple players can score the same public objective, but each player may only score an objective a single time. Additionally, on top of public objectives, there are also secret objectives. These objectives are specific to you, and you may only score up to 3 total. You start the game with one, and most of them have the status phase effect, which means that they score at the same time as the public objectives, and you can score up to 1 of these at a time as well. Some secret objectives instead say action phase on them, which means that you have to be more proactive about scoring them, since they happen during a specific timing window instead of at the end of a round. If you start with one of these in your hand, make sure to look out for when this would come up. Remember, all of the exciting things I'm about to show you about how to play the game all loops back around to those objectives and getting 10 or sometimes 14 victory points. Let's check out what the galaxy looks like. This is an example of a galaxy game board. Your galaxy will not look exactly like this, but it will be similar. You can either build the galaxy during setup or use a pre-made map to speed up the process. Some system tiles may have wormholes or anomalies that change up the rules of how to go through that system, but for the most part, system tiles have space area and 1 or more planets within them. Additionally, this is set up for a 6-player game, so you see in the bottom left corner of each of these corner system tiles that you see the faction symbols on them. Faction home systems are placed near the edges of the game board, and that's where you'll start all your plastic units at the beginning of the game. The most important part about the galaxy is the center planet of Mechatol Rex. Just know that this is the seat of the council and a very important spot in the galaxy, but we'll talk about that more in just a little bit. The first choice you'll have when starting out a game of TI is what faction to play. You play as both the militaristic and diplomatic leader of that faction, and each faction has a number of different abilities that change up their playstyle during the game. In the base game of TI, there are 17 to choose from, but if you have both expansions, there are up to 30 unique factions with unique abilities. But don't get overwhelmed. Sure, in a competitive sense, there are differences in power levels of the factions, but just keep in mind, in a casual setting, many of these factions are just about balanced with each other very well. If you're having trouble choosing a faction purely based off of looks, make sure you check out this box in the top right-hand corner of the front of the faction sheet. This has the faction abilities, which are the most unique things specific to that faction. For an example, I like the look of the Winnu, so I'll choose them by taking the faction sheet and all of the Winnu-specific cards and tokens. I'll also want to choose a color from the 6 available, so I'll choose purple, taking all of the units of that color and the command sheet to attach to my faction sheet, and this is my play area. Now if we look at the faction sheet deeply, we'll notice that each of the plastic units have to do with a corresponding unit type on our faction sheet. The unit type explains how much it costs, how good it is in combat, how fast it can move, and how many smaller things it can hold. I will not go into this in very much detail, and you can learn more as you play, but for the most part, higher values on move and capacity are good, and lower values on cost and combat are good. That's because in order to hit something, you have to roll at least that high on the combat roll in order to hit. Also on your faction sheet, you'll notice the commodity value, which normally higher is better because you're a better trade partner. You also have a spot to store any extra cash you have in the form of trade goods. Additionally, you have 3 different pools for your command tokens. The tactic pool is how many different tactical actions, which is the major type of action you can do during a round. I'll explain the tactical action in just a little bit, but just know that's how you get things done in the galaxy. The fleet pool is how large each of your fleets can be, so more tokens in this pool means a larger, more intimidating fleet of ships. And the strategy pool is how many different strategies you can follow along with during the action phase. Again, we'll go about this in just a moment during the strategy cards section. Command tokens are the lifeblood of your game and show you exactly what you can do and how well you can do it on your turns. Our units interact with the galaxy by all structures and ground forces like these infantry being placed on the individual planets. Alternatively, all of the capital ships and fighters are placed in the space area. This includes this carrier, cruiser, and the 2 fighters, as well as all other ships in the game. They exist above the planets in the space area of the systems. Capital ships like this carrier that have capacity can carry fighters and infantry along their way to different systems. You'll need fighters to fight off other fleets, and you'll need infantry to take planets. Structures consist of planetary defense systems that protect your planets, as well as space docks that help you make more units, including both ships and ground forces. You see, the round structure in Twilight Imperium goes like this. First, you'll choose a strategy card in the strategy phase. The strategy cards are the 8 cards that you've seen in front of me since the beginning of the video. We'll talk about them in just a minute, I promise it's coming. But then after that, you'll play through the action phase, of which you'll take 1 turn at a time, going between different people and doing a single action on each of your turns until you choose to pass for the round. Once each player has passed, you'll move on to the status phase. The status phase is then the phase that everything will be cleaned up and reset for the next game round. There is a 4th phase that will be added on at some point during the game after the status phase. But if you'll give me a minute, I want to first explain how the things we've already learned, being the Galaxy game map and our faction and units, combine together and how to play a turn during the action phase. On your turn, you have a choice between one of 3 different types of actions. The first is super self-explanatory. It's called a component action. Component actions happen whenever something that you have in front of you, whether that be on your faction sheet, a different card, or some kind of other effect in your hand, have the title action in all bold letters with a colon after it. If you see something with that header, it's the only thing you do on your turn, and you move on to the next player. The second type of action is way more involved. It's called the tactical action. and it's definitely the action most players will be taking the most of during the action phase. This has to do with the command tokens on your command sheet in the tactic pool that we talked about just a minute ago. To perform a tactical action, you'll take a token out of your tactic pool and place it in a system of your choice in the galaxy. You are now activating that system, and everything for this tactical action will happen in that system. Let me show you a few examples. When a system is activated during a tactical action, you can move ships from adjacent systems that are close enough due to their move value to make it there. Doing so may help you move ground forces into that system to help you take planets. Planets are represented by planet cards and are broken up into a few different things: a planet trait, as well as resources and influence values. The planet trait has no inherent effect, but resources allow you to build more things when you activate systems with space docks in it. And influence allows you to get more command tokens to place on your sheet, as well as produce more votes during the agenda phase. For a simplified example, I could always perform a tactical action in order to spend resources on planet cards that I have in front of me to build things using my space dock. Additionally, if you're performing a tactical action and you move ships into a system with other players' ships, or you try to take a planet with their ground forces, you'll have to participate in combat. Without getting into too much detail, combat has to do with the roll of the dice on both players' sides. Smaller fleets and worse ships generally have a harder time beating larger fleets and better ships, such as this War Sun here. If you ever forget something about the tactical action, all of the steps that you perform in order after you activate a system are explained here, as well as other pieces of handy information on the pull-out quick reference on your command sheet. So to recap, the component action allows you to take actions on components in front of you, and the tactical action allows you to perform actions in the actual galaxy game map on the game board. But remember, I said there's a third type of action: the strategic action, and it may be sometimes the most important action that you do during the round. You see, the strategic action is the only action you have to perform during the game round. You must do a strategic action on each of the strategy cards in front of you, usually only one, during the game round in order to pass. It's easy to explain, but a little involved. So I'm going to explain how to do it, and then we'll look at each of the strategy cards that are choices at the beginning of the round directly after. To perform a strategic action, which is the action you'll do on your turn, you'll take the strategy card that you've selected and placed in front of you, and perform the primary ability on it. Directly after that, you'll allow each player in turn order to perform the secondary ability. Now, you never perform the secondary. You only perform the primary and then allow other players the option to do the secondary. After doing this, you'll take the strategy card and place it face down or turn it around so that other players can only see the back. This has shown that you've already done it, and now you have the option to either continue playing or pass at any point. Each of the different strategy cards show you your strategy for the round because they're very important and they have a lot to do with gaining victory points. So during the first round of the game, the strategy phase, you'll make one of your most important choices of that entire round, which strategy card you'll have access to in the action phase. So even though this is a beginner's guide, I want to do a rapid fire on what each of these do. Not only do the strategy cards choose what power I'm about to explain, but they also choose your initiative for the round. For example, when you choose leadership, you'll also be taking the first initiative, which means you'll go first during both the action phase and the status phase. And remember, you score points in the status phase, so that could be very, very important for winning the game. But remember, the strategy cards are balanced around that initiative number. So a lot of the time, either 7 or 8 will end up being more important than 1 or 2. But it all depends on your situation. Let's touch on each of them right now. The leadership card allows you to gain more command tokens. You know, the things I was talking about that are the lifeblood of your game? When you gain those tokens, you can place them anywhere on your command sheet and allow you to take even more actions or make bigger fleets or follow strategy cards. You see, that's because the strategy pool on your command sheet allows you to do the secondaries on these cards. Leadership is the only one that doesn't require that, but otherwise you can't do the secondary without spending one of the tokens, and that's why that third pool is so important. So gaining more tokens with leadership allows you so many more options, and it's the go-to if you don't have a specific plan. The diplomacy card does two things. First, it refreshes planets, which gives you either more resources or influence to spend. Additionally, it also locks down a system. And what I mean by that is it places everybody else's tokens in that system. If you have a command token in a system, you cannot move ships to or from that system unless a game effect specifies that you can. So, you're pretty much protecting yourself in a single system on the game board and refreshing planets that you might want to use again. The third card is the Politics card and is a jack of all trades. It first lets you mess with the Agenda deck and draw action cards, two things that I haven't talked about yet. The Agenda deck is what I was talking about when I mentioned voting during the Agenda phase. Once Mechatol Rex is taken, that is, that somebody spends influence to land on it and remove a token that's on it, the Agenda phase will begin, and at the end of every round, the players will vote on new rules for the game that will apply to everybody. Being able to mess with this with the Politics card sets you up very well. And then on the other side, action cards are additional effects that you'll have in your hand. You can hold up to 7, and many of them have component actions on them that give you powerful abilities to change the game. And finally, the Politics card lets you control the Speaker token. This is the all-powerful token that shows which player can choose these cards first during the next strategy phase. The fourth card is Construction, and it's the only way for most factions to be able to place planetary defense systems and space docks on the game board. That seems pretty straightforward, but you need them to play the game. So either performing the primary or secondary of this is crucial at certain points of the game. The fifth card is Trade. It not only refreshes your commodities, which makes you a better trade partner, but also gives you money in the form of trade goods. Having more money is just generally good and gives you a lot more options and larger fleets to build. The sixth card is Warfare. Now, Warfare is interesting because, like we talked about earlier with Diplomacy, it does kind of the opposite. It removes one of your tokens from the game board, allowing you to activate those ships again and move them even further. This can allow you some crazy plays and unexpected actions that players won't be able to predict. Number 7 is Technology. It allows you to research technology, which is a separate deck that I'll actually talk about separately in just a little bit because it's that involved. It allows you to gain more abilities and, unfortunately for new players, even more stuff to keep track of. It's generally the most exciting card for new players because it gets you all these flashy cool new abilities. And finally, sometimes the most powerful is Imperial. It lets you score extra public objectives than you would be able to otherwise, gaining you more victory points. It also lets you either gain victory points if you control Mechatol Rex, which is why that planet is so important, or if you don't, lets you draw more secret objectives. This is one of the only ways in the game to either get points or draw secret objectives outside of the status phase. So now you understand why each of these cards are so powerful. They control your entire strategy for the game round. Let's talk about a few things that we need to clean up before we can talk about the expansions. Let me clear up something about this game in a moment of strategic advice. This game, and I want to say it loud and clear for all you new and returning players to hear, is not Space Risk. This game is not about eliminating players and the thrills of combat. It is about conquest, politics, and trade. Sometimes you may have to hurt players to get what you need, but sometimes you may have to help them create alliances and be diplomatic and political to get your points. There is not a specific, perfect way to play this game, and each of the factions give you different playstyles. Some let you rip apart other players and tear into their economy. Other factions let you be benevolent and give out money in exchange for goods. 17 factions and up to 30 with the expansions gives you so many playstyles. So again, if you need a better idea of what to choose, please check out that other video I have. I'll talk about TI as a whole in just a minute, but you need to be benevolent, malevolent, kind, and ruthless, depending on the situation. and you may even have to lie once or twice, if need be. You're not quite ready for what Twilight Imperium is going to ask of you, so expect the unexpected. So, let me just quickly clear up a couple last mechanical things. Technology is broken up into name, ability, prerequisites, and the color of the tech. Think of technology like a skill tree, where you need a certain amount of prerequisites to research that tech, but it gives you a prerequisite of the color that it is. So in this case, anti-mass deflectors doesn't have any technology prerequisites in it, so anytime I was told to research tech, I could get this technology. Then at a later time, because anti-mass deflectors is blue, I could research a tech with a single blue prerequisite. And eventually, if I was told to research again, I could get one with 2 blue prerequisites, because each of these are giving me 1. I'm going more into depth with tech because it is a difficult thing for new players to understand. So this is the general system of things. Some technologies instead are called unit upgrade technologies, and instead of giving you new abilities, they upgrade the things already on your faction sheet. So they have a number of prerequisites, but they do not have any color in the bottom right corner, so they don't give you anything. These unit upgrade technologies are placed over the already existing unit on your faction sheet. They replace everything that used to be there. They're kind of like dead ends to the technology tree, but can help you a lot on the Galaxy game board. The other mechanical thing I wanted to clear up is trade. Trade happens when you're neighbors with another player, which means that you have things adjacent to them on the Galaxy. It does not mean when you're sitting next to them. You can freely trade with players and give them different things for different things in return, such as commodities. Commodities are gray tokens, and they go on your commodity section on your faction sheet. They're completely useless to you, but when you give them away to another player, they become trade goods for that player. Trade goods are a god currency, like I was talking about with the trade strategy card, and allows you to spend any resources or influence with trade goods instead. You also have a number of promissory notes in your color. This is the only way to make binding deals with another player, because you can give them away and that player can play them against you in the future. You may additionally make any number of non-binding deals. Please be free with this. You can say, I'll let you go into this system if you let me go into that one. Or, if I can go into that system, I'll pay you 3 commodities, or any number of different things. Really be creative with this. If you need to make a binding deal that cannot be lied about or broken, use a promissory note. But otherwise, if you trust the player and have a pseudo-alliance with them, make any alliance and trades that you'd like. Like I said earlier, if you haven't played, you're not quite ready for how fun it's going to be. TI is not about being perfectly strategic, maximizing efficiency, and at every single turn, knowing exactly what's going to happen. It's instead about having fun all day with your friends or strangers or whoever else you're playing with at the table. These players are going to help you. They're going to backstab you. They're going to get in your way from getting your victory points, but it's all going to be worth it. TI is absolutely a blast. It will take all day, or multiple long game sessions, but I promise you, the story that's told from the beginning of the game all the way arcing until the end will be worth every moment you spend. If you're playing with just the base game, this is where you can end the video. But if you're playing with either Prophecy of Kings or Thunder's Edge, I'm going to go over each of those expansions in that order quickly. The Prophecy of Kings expansion added many things to the game, including 2 new player colors and the ability to play up to 8 players. It also introduced 5 new factions, a new ground force for each color, as well as hyperlanes to fix the odd player setups. Additionally, it also came with a way to slightly tweak and fix diplomacy because it was a little weak in the base game. It also came with plenty of new system tiles, including new types of planets called legendary planets that came with their own powerful abilities. But the most important thing that Prophecy of Kings added were the leaders and the exploration. The agent, commander, and hero leaders give you new abilities throughout the game, including the hero being a single-time use ultimate ability. Exploration assisted the game in being more exciting, especially towards the beginning, because each time you take a planet, you explore that planet due to its planet type, including the ability to explore deep space with the frontier exploration. These are random positive effects and may give you things called relic fragments. Get enough relic fragments, and you're able to turn them into a relic. Powerful new abilities that can change the course of the game. Overall, Prophecy of Kings added new ways to play, powerful new abilities for new factions, exciting things to change up the game, and the 7 factions being perfect, because a couple of them are high complexity and a couple are perfect for new players. The Thunder's Edge expansion instead has entirely to do with this planet called Thunder's Edge. If a faction goes on an expedition to Thunder's Edge, then that faction will unlock their Breakthrough, which is a new powerful ability for the faction. It not only synergizes 2 technology colors, but also gives them a new way to play the game, kind of like the leaders in the Prophecy of Kings expansion. Thunder's Edge and the Breakthroughs may cause the Fracture to enter play, which is a new alternate reality that can appear on the game board and give you more relics. Which, speaking of which, there are more relics to add to your relic deck if you already had the Prophecy of Kings expansion. This expansion also adds neutral units that will appear in the Fracture in a new gray color, as well as hyperlanes to fix the odd player counts if you don't have POK, fixes to the Construction and Warfare card to make them more desirable, and new system tiles, including a new anomaly, space stations, and even multi-traded planets. Thunder's Edge also introduces 5 new factions and an official print of a previously only print-and-play faction, the Council Kelleris. There are also reference cards that show off all of the abilities from both the Prophecy of Kings and Thunder's Edge expansion and the base game for each of the 30 factions here, and new ways to play the game if you've gotten bored of TI somehow with new galactic events that change the game. If you're a beginner, or you're a host trying to decide whether or not you include the expansions, I would heavily suggest adding the Prophecy of Kings expansion whether or not you have new players. It truly adds just that little bit of fun that isn't completely overcomplicating the game. Once you're used to the base game plus Prophecy of Kings, then I would suggest adding Thunder's Edge afterwards. Also, I believe Prophecy of Kings is more beginner-friendly overall than Thunder's Edge is. So if you're only going to pick one, pick POK over TE. But I heavily suggest you eventually make your way up to Thunder's Edge and include all 3 of the products combined into one mega experience eventually, because that's the most updated and intended way to play Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you're excited for either your first or 500th game of Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. If you want to support the Cardboard Crash Course, subscribe to the channel and send this video to other players. Also, if you want to go that step further, you can become a YouTube channel member for as little as $2 a month. But the $5 and up tiers also help you get new exclusive videos and to be able to see videos earlier than everybody else in the future. I've been Ethan, and I'll see you next time on the Cardboard Crash Course. Pax Magnifica, Bellum Gloriosum.